Excited that you've joined us. We're in for a real treat with Brian going over the four framework for reinvention and resilience. Before we let him take the stage and just jump right into it, there are just a few housekeeping things that we would like to go over. First, let's be engaged in the chat. The chat is kind of towards your bottom right, usually in your screen. And so if you want to just start the conversation off in one word, how are you feeling that you're showing up today? Are you hopeful, tired, excited? Um, whatever it is, drop that in the chat. That chat is also where you can ask questions throughout the webinar. I'll be monitoring it so we can get them answered. And we'll also leave time at the end for questions. And I want to do a reminder that these webinars are free and open to the public, and they would not be that way if it wasn't for the support of our wonderful sponsors. And so we do want to feature PayPal today. They are a trusted partner for businesses of every size. PayPal helps entrepreneurs get paid securely, quickly, and in ways customers expect, whether that's online, in store, through invoices or subscriptions. Beyond payments, PayPal offers tools to manage cash flow, reach more customers, and grow with confidence. So business owners can spend less time worrying about transactions and more time focusing on what they do best. So we're grateful for PayPal's commitment to empowering small businesses and helping them grow through every stage of their journey. We're also honored to recognize one of our longtime Grow Nebraska members, the Wooden Gem. They've been part of Grow Nebraska family since 2006, creating beautiful handcrafted wood art and functional pieces that reflect true craftsmanship and creativity. Whether it's custom decor, unique gifts, or fine woodworking, the Wooden Gem brings passion and attention to details of every piece they make. They have a commitment to quality and community. So if you haven't already, check out their work at wood-arts.com. And I am now going to pass it over to our Grow Nebraska Women's Business Center.
Hello, I'm Samantha. Very nice to meet you all. If you're not familiar, we're in the Omaha area. So we serve entrepreneurs in the Omaha area and Lincoln. But I want to plug our Bail office hours. It stands for banker, accountant, insurance, and legal. We have this every Wednesday. You don't need to make an appointment or register or anything. It's free. It's between 10:30 and 1, so anytime in between there at this location, you can come in and get one-on-one help in any of these areas.
Awesome. So we'll be looking forward to you guys swinging by for some of our great resources that our Women's Business Center has, as well as Grow Nebraska. Grow Nebraska is a membership organization, and we help businesses truly get a digital footprint. So if you're interested in seeing if you're the right fit for Grow Nebraska or what Grow Nebraska can assist your business with in growth, please reach out. We'd be happy to have that conversation. And then I do want to make a plug. We have a great conference coming up. It's March 24th and 25th. It's going to be in Kearney, Nebraska. And Brian, our speaker today, is actually going to be one of our breakout sessions. And so if you love what he presents on today, he's going to go more in depth during Market Tech. It's going to be a conference that's full of AI, social media, leadership, marketing. It's a great time to earn and learn, and registration is happening now. So secure your seat while there's still spots available. And with that, I am going to let Brian take the stage. I'll stop sharing my screen so that he can just jump into this great topic. We're in for a real treat.
Hey guys, I'm Brian Zuger. I'll get the screen popped up here so you guys can see the slides here in just a moment. While we're doing that though, let me just kind of introduce myself to y'all. I'm Brian. I am the founding partner and managing partner of Organizational Strategic Solutions. We are what I'll call a boutique uh, crisis management and organizational leadership development firm. I actually have two really awesome jobs. I get to work with business owners such as yourself and help them grow their businesses. And I'm also a golf performance coach. So I work with golfers around the country, usually that play in the elite high school and college ranks, and help them develop their golf games. And so one of the reasons why you'll see as we go through this, there's some golf references in there is because I use that metaphor a lot in what we do professionally as a way to enhance our business experiences. And I want to talk just a little bit about what F.O.R.E means, and it's an acronym that we as golfers use when we hit a bad shot. And let's face it, sometimes in life, in business, things don't necessarily go as planned, and so we're constantly in a state of reinvention. Whether that's professionally because you've had a misstep in your career, whether maybe a product line in your business doesn't launch properly, or starts to get stagnant, or maybe it's even in mitigating outside factors such as something like a pandemic like COVID that hits your business, and now you're finding yourself having to pivot in the middle of what you thought was going pretty well. Now, whether you're at the helm of a business, leading just a team in your organization, or spearheading an entire community initiative, my aim today is to arm you with some strategies that'll truly make a difference in your world. So let's talk just a little bit real quick about why reinvention matters. And in the past, we typically pursued reinvention only when necessary, right? Something happens in our organization or in our businesses that causes us to have to make a pivot somehow. Those circumstances sometimes force us to adapt. And in many cases, that reinvention becomes a fundamental leadership skill that many of us as leaders need to worry about. And those could happen in a lot of different ways. That could be a market shift. It could be somehow the community starts to evolve. A new demographic comes in for some reason. Maybe it's, I know in Bellevue, one of the things that they were trying to work on is glass doors and glass buildings around here. And so the types of workers change. Technology accelerates all the time in organizations, as well as people and organizations hit crossroads, and it becomes time that they change. And so a lot of times this can become very overwhelming for us as business leaders and as community leaders. Many of us experience this as a type of pressure or a type of stress that hits our business, and it causes us to operate out of a stressed environment. And it's not just about keeping up, it's about staying ahead, remaining relevant, and ensuring that our organizations and communities thrive rather than just merely survive. And that's why I'm really excited to launch today F.O.R.E, F-O-R-E, the framework. I think it's a stabilizing tool and a roadmap that a lot of organizations can use when things become unclear or uncertain. And this framework is designed to help you gain clarity, reconnect with your values, and move forward with intention, regardless of the changes that you may encounter. As we explore the topic, remember that reinvention is not something that we fear. It's actually a skill that we have to develop in our organizations, and we're here to help support you in any way possible. So let's take a moment to celebrate what makes Nebraska truly special. One is our culture, right? Is built on grit, it's built on community and integrity and a long-term mindset. And those aren't just words, those are also qualities that help us weather storms, adapt to change, and emerge stronger on the other side. When we discuss successful reinvention, these traits give us a distinct advantage. Grit helps us push through uncertainty, while community means that we support and uplift one another. And then we have integrity, which drives us to find creative solutions, and a long-term mindset that helps us focus lasting impact on just things other than just quick victories. And this is precisely what Grow Nebraska is all about. It empowers local businesses and leaders to thrive, not just survive. If we tap into our shared strengths, we can reinvent ourselves countless number of times and our communities for a much brighter future. And as we move forward today, let's go ahead and embrace what makes Nebraska great, the ability to reinvent and pivot when times are necessary. So let's talk just a little bit about the F.O.R.E framework. And as what you see is that it's actually an acronym for finding clarity, orienting and reorienting your values, reinvesting by design, and then engaging forward. Forget about memorizing complicated systems or theories. This is something that you can put into practice immediately. You could do this day one, starting today. When you get off this webinar, I'll challenge you to take one action today that'll help you do that. And whether you're leading a business, just a team, or a community project, you'll notice that this framework, yes, using a golf metaphor, but don't let that distract you because you don't actually need to be a golfer to grasp this concept. I'm sure there's several golfers that are on this today, but you don't have to be a golfer to grasp this concept and use it effectively. It's not about a sport, it's about a direction and progress. And like in golf, it's not about achieving perfection, it's about making intentional moves towards your goal. As we progress through each of these sections, I'll provide you with some practical tools and real world examples, and you'll also see how each part of this framework empowers you to find clarity and establish your direction and take decisive action amidst uncertainty. So let's jump right into the first one, which is finding clarity. And let's be clear about the importance of clarity. In times of rapid change, losing focus is not an option. There's too much noise and not enough signal. But clarity cuts through the chaos and restores our agency. We can't find ourselves or allow ourselves to merely react to whatever comes our way. We must make intentional choices that drive us forward. Reinvention doesn't start with just simple action. It begins with a comprehensive understanding of the landscape before we act. We need to see the situation for what it truly is, not for what we fear it could be. And this approach helps us sidestep knee-jerk reactions, and it empowers us to make decisions that are continually propelling us forward. Consider this example. I once worked with a business owner who was completely stuck in their business. Every day they were bombarded by news headlines, competitor moves, unsolicited advice from every direction. I'm sure none of us in business know about that, right? That out of town friend with a briefcase that gives us unsolicited advice. But that happens all the time. The noise was overwhelming this person. It was blinding them to the realities of their business. And once we were able to help them shift their focus on what they could control and the facts on the ground, the path became a lot clearer for that person. That is the undeniable power of clarity. As we move into this framework, remember that clarity is the foundation. It's the absolute foundation of what we're doing. And it gives us the strength to lead with confidence, even when everything around us is in a state of flux. So I want to talk about fog for a moment. My good friend Carol Horner, who wrote a book, she owns a company called Synchronicity, and she wrote a book about the spiral accountability. Talks about fog in her book, and fog is that uncertainty that happens, and it happens in organizations all over the country, and it happens even in our daily lives. And what the fog really is can be any kind of noise that gets in the way of what your organization is doing, and every reinvention starts with some level of uncertainty. And that will create certain fears. It'll create confusion. It'll cause people to pivot early. It'll cause them to transition improperly. And we have to look at and understand that fog is not a sign of failure. It's simply a part of the journey. I can recall a pivotal moment in my career where I was embracing a new leadership role, and in that instant, the fog was undeniable. Imposter syndrome kicked in right away, as well as worried about all the potential mistakes I could make, and I generally felt lost. What I realized was that if I passionately shared with my clients what I was going through, that the fog didn't, it wasn't a stop sign. It was a powerful signal that I needed to slow down, assess the situation, and dive deeper into the understanding of what was truly happening. One client I worked with, who's a community leader, faced a significant transition in their organization that left them paralyzed by unknowns. It was a government agency I was consulting with. And together we were able to help them reframe what that fog was and use it as an invitation for them to pause, ask some insightful questions, get some good counsel, and then discover the underlying truths rather than becoming overwhelmed by the noise that they were experiencing at that time. That shift was truly transformative for them. So if you find yourself in fog right now, and many of you might be sitting here thinking that, yeah, boy, I'm in a lot of fog right now. I had a dozen emails today and everything blew up on me before I came to the webinar. Understand that that's entirely normal. And the moment isn't telling you to stop. It's urging you to slow down and just get some clarity and then strategically prepare for your next move. In this discussion, we're exploring several practical tools designed to enhance clarity. It's important to recognize that clarity is not merely a singular event. Rather, it's an ongoing practice that requires consistent attention, particularly in the periods of chaos and when you're overwhelmed. I want you all to think back to what you were doing in your organizations when COVID hit and what that did to your organizations. Many of us, in a lot of cases, I happened to be running a government agency at the time, but many of us were faced with having to think about closing our doors. We had to put up plexiglass in front of customer service screens. We had to start worrying about distancing inside of our buildings. We had to worry about whether or not we're ever going to let people into our buildings because they could contaminate your entire staff and shut down your organization. That was a great example of fog that was not brought on by the impact by the actions of any one individual, but it impacted every business worldwide. And it actually shut down the world for, in some areas, for up to 5 years. And it was because nobody had a plan how to overcome this fog. And so there's really some tools that you can use that'll help you start to get some clarity. One of them is the 3 question reset, which proves invaluable during moments when you feel like you're stagnant or you're absolutely just running every direction. To utilize this tool, you might take a moment to just reflect and consider 3 fundamental questions. First, what is true right now in this moment? Second, what holds the greatest significance? And third, what constitutes the next actionable step? This method will enable you to navigate through distractions and concentrate on those key elements that are actually within your control. The second tool is a 10-minute debrief. And this practice is employed countless times during my day. A lot of my clients use this numerous times in their days, and it can be done following a meeting specifically, or a challenging conversation, or even at just the end of your day, and you're trying to say, okay, where did my day go? And all I'm asking you to do is allocate 10 minutes to record the events that transpired, the insights that you gained, and the subsequent actions that you're going to take as an effective means of processing the experiences so that you can gain perspective before you move on to your next day. Finally, the last thing is you have to ask yourself the question, what is true right now? What do we know? Exercises like this can be employed when you're experiencing feelings of being overwhelmed due to whatever various possibilities or concerns. Could be a pandemic. It could be you just had one of your star employees quit. It could be that you're having a hard time finding employees. I know that's one of the things a number of my clients struggle with is hiring, training, and retaining their employees. It seems like it's a constant revolving door out there. And it involves stopping to document only verified information, and this approach assists in distinguishing between what's facts and what are your assumptions or your blind spots, and thereby reinstating a sense of stability in your organization. And I encourage every one of my clients to select one of these 3 tools, or all of them actually, as a way to implement early on in your process. Get used to doing this early in the process so that you can observe any outcomes and reflect upon any changes that are occurring in your organization. It's essential also to understand that clarity is not a final goal, but this is a continual practice. And that's why I mentioned the 10-minute debrief at the end of the day. That's a practice I use every day. At the end of the day, I sit down and I write down those insights I had during the day, the things I truly got done, any experiences that I had that maybe I needed to reflect on during my quiet time or any of those times, and I write those things down. The next day, I begin with an additional one that's not on here. I begin with about a 20-minute rebrief where I actually go through the day and say, okay, here's what I did yesterday. Here's the 5 things I need to accomplish today. And the more frequently that you use tools like that, the more adept you'll become in navigating through uncertainty because it really does provide clarity. So the second, the O in four, is orienting your values. And this comes through purposes, principles, and priorities. So let's talk about the significance of values in our lives. We all have core common values. And in a world that's constantly shifting, whether due to changing markets, rapid technology investments, or evolving community dynamics, it's easy to feel disoriented. And this is where our values come into play because those are the grounding tools that we use that create stability. They create a steadfast anchor for us as we lead our organizations, and they offer guidance when we face difficult decisions. I often say if you show me a leader who has a good grasp and a complete understanding of what their core values are, I can tell you exactly how that leader will lead anytime that there is any kind of uncertainty arising in their organization. Because those core values are the things that we go back to. It's just like the grip in golf. And I use this example a lot when I'm working with my clients. Your grip matters, and how you grip the golf club matters. Your core values are your grip. They're not much more than they're way much more than mere phrases that we display on the wall. I could challenge you to go into any organization in Nebraska probably, and somewhere in their organization they'll have their core values, and it'll be 5 or 6 words. It'll be things like integrity and honesty and words like being transparent and those types of things. And they're more than just the words on the wall. because these are what are empowering us to lead effectively. When confronted with a crossroads or a challenge, our values help us filter out the distractions and the noise and really focus on those things that truly matter. They provide clarity and direction, and they ensure that your actions align with your core beliefs and your principles. Consider what principles guide you in your business, especially in challenging times. They could be things like integrity, community, innovation, perseverance, compassion, doing the right thing at the right time, whatever resonates most deeply with you. And in organizational strategic solutions, this is one of the first things I do with every one of my clients. We do a couple of things. One, we run a disc assessment on everybody so that we understand how you communicate in your hot buttons. But the second thing we do is about an 8-week process with organizations to help them understand what truly are their core values. And a lot of the words that I just showed you here are things that people put down initially. Sometimes they stay the same, but in about 95% of the time, there are deeper, more deep underlying words that people tie to, and it's what happens when the rubber meets the road and crisis hits that actually drives them. I encourage every one of my clients to write these down, keep them visible as a constant reminder, and then let these values inform your decisions and your actions as you face times of uncertainty. Remember, your values prevent drift, they keep you from swaying off course, and they act as your compass through times of reinvention and transformation. And by staying grounded in your values, you can navigate the complexities of life with confidence and purpose. I use the compass as a metaphor for this. Your values are the true north. Your goals become your destination, and your strategy becomes your route. When people feel lost, it seldom seems they do this from a lack of ability or talent. I think everybody that owns a business, that's an entrepreneur, they have an inherent ability, they have an inherent talent, and they're using that talent to start their business. Sometimes it's a passion. In my case, it's my passion for golf and my passion for helping business owners succeed. Those are the things that drive me. But there are times where you lose sight of exactly what that true north is, and you must know which way to go. Your values become that true north. They're the thing that guides you all the way through that, and they're what helps you align your values with your organization's values. Consider this: I worked with a business owner facing a critical decision, and it was whether to pursue a partnership with a promising rapid growth company that the values didn't exactly line up. They actually were in contradiction to each other. The his organization and the organization that was coming on, and it was this value of transparency and community that was really the key. It was a tempting offer. It was very lucrative. It was a couple of $1 million. It was extremely lucrative for him. But upon reflecting what truly mattered, he had to make the hard decision to walk away from that deal. And the reason why was because that value was in such conflict that if it would have ever come up as a problem in their organization between the two organizations, it would have shattered everything that they were working for. And so the choice was challenging, and everybody thought he was crazy for passing up on a $2 million deal. But by holding to those values, he ended up growing that exponentially. Excuse me for just a second. I gotta there. I'm sorry, I had a little ticker come up that blocked everything. Um, so it actually ended up paying off 5 times that because he found 3 other organizations that lined up with his core values and the values of his organization. So the next time that you hit a crossroads, take a moment, check your compass, and make sure that you're following that. And these values will guide you through uncertainty, and it'll help you with that third stage, which is strategy, which is what we're all really concerned about anyway. So let's talk a little bit about what values look like in action. When our actions consistently reflect our values, it builds unwavering trust among us and our teams and our customers and our communities. People used to ask me, how do I get my employees to run through a brick wall for me? The conversation I always had to have them is show them your values, show them what you hold dear, and get them on board with those values. People notice when we set clear boundaries. They notice when we're willing to make a decisive call, and they notice when we lead with integrity. And this is what establishes enduring credibility for you as a leader in your organizations and in your communities. Take, for example, the core value of transparency. This means not only sharing good news, but also openly discussing challenges with your team. I don't know how many of you have been in businesses or in organizations where you feel like you're not quite getting all the information. And if you're a business leader out here and this is going on in your organization, I'll tell you right now that you're in a state of fog. We'll go back to that slide, but I'll tell you you're in a state of fog. And it creates additional fog with your employees because what happens is they don't see where you're going. And it's important for employees to feel secure today and know where you're going. And so this is a fundamental value that a lot of organizations need to start focusing on. And it involves setting clear boundaries about how you expect to be treated and how you are going to treat others, even under pressure. And so I challenge you to identify just one boundary right now that you need to reinforce in your organization. It could be saying no to tasks that don't align with your mission. I mean, we all hate to turn down business. I know that, but there's been times in my organization even that I've had to say, yeah, you know what, that just doesn't quite fit in what we're trying to do. It might be an industry that I don't work in. It could be, something where I'm not quite able to make sure that I can give all the information to that client. And so there are times where you have to walk away from business. It also could be dedicating time for what truly matters. And I think that happens to a lot of us in business as well, is that in many cases, we're constantly trying to find new revenue streams and new ways to reinvent our business and separate ourselves from our competition. And we end up sucking away time from those activities that we could be doing in our business that actually truly matter. So, whatever the boundary is, honoring it is a powerful demonstration of putting your values into action. Remember, alignment's not merely what you say; it's about what you do every single day. And this is how you build trust, not only within your organizations, but externally also to your communities and to those client bases. So let's talk about reinventing by design, because most of us, that's the R and four, and most of us, we've thought about reinventing ourselves. We've thought about maybe pivoting our organization, things like that, but we just don't have a roadmap or we just don't quite know how to do that. So it's not merely a response to crisis or something that we do when we're forced to adapt. Instead, reinvention is a design process. It's a series of small, intentional shifts that over time accumulate into something significant. Consider this. You don't need to completely overhaul everything overnight. Instead, concentrate on making thoughtful adjustments, testing new ideas, and learning along the way. Small steps accumulate, and before you know it, you've evolved in ways that feel genuine and sustainable. The key is reinvention isn't about abandoning your identity, it's about evolving it. You're building up your strengths and values and experiences and not discarding them. I think a lot of us think, yeah, hey, I'd really like to get to this new level, but boy, that's going to be a lot of work. It's going to cost me. I'm going to have to go back to school. I'm going to have to go do this. I'm going to have to take this webinar. I'm going to sit on this webinar. I'm going to have to go to this class. I may have to bring somebody else in, outside counsel, that can help me with these things. And there's all of those types of things that go into reinvention. And so we get the elephant gets so big that we're afraid to even take that first bite. And that's the way that you eat an elephant, is one bite at a time, right? And yet we have to figure out those little small steps that we can take that allow us to start to think about reinventing. And that's what makes it so powerful. It honors your past while enabling you to move forward. As you reflect on your own journey, remember, you're not starting from scratch. You're designing your next chapter, and it has to be intentional, one step at a time. So let's talk a little bit about the design mindset and its role in this process. It's important to remember that reinvention is not a one-time leap. Rather, it's a continuous process of prototyping, testing, and making adjustments along the way. You don't need to get everything perfect on your first attempt. Matter of fact, perfection is the enemy of good. Instead, focus on making small intentional changes, learning from them, and moving forward. You're going to make mistakes. And that's why we call this grow through what you go through, is because you're going to go through things. You're going to make mistakes as you go through this process. And that's what's actually where the growth actually happens. So I'd like to share a story about a leader that I worked with specifically, and they were a director of a local nonprofit. They were experiencing declining engagement and understood that a change was necessary. Their volunteers were having a hard time finding volunteers in the community. The solution was not immediately clear. They didn't know how to, it's hard to get volunteer army going, and they just didn't know how to get going that direction. And so instead of implementing a massive overhaul, we chose to start small. We initially prototyped a new volunteer onboarding process with just one of the teams inside their organization. They collected feedback, we made adjustments on the fly, and then expanded to a process onto the next group. Over a few months, these incremental experiments led to a complete transformation of how the organization welcomed and retained new volunteers. What's powerful about this story is that that leader did not abandon the organization's identity. Instead, they evolved it step by step, learning and making adjustments along the way. This embodies the essence of the design mindset. It's a strategic process, viewing reinvention as a series of prototypes rather than a single jump into the fire. As you reflect on your own journey, consider asking yourself, what's one small idea that you could test this month? Just one in a month. What's one adjustment you could make in a process that you're doing right now also? Remember, reinvention is that process, and every prototype brings you closer to the next chapter. So let's talk about a couple of practical reinvention tools that we use with clients all the time and what makes them manageable and actionable. First, there's the 90-day reinvention map. And this tool helps you establish a clear focus for the next 3 months. Instead of attempting to change everything at once, you choose specific areas that you want to work on, you set goals, and you track your progress. 90 days is more than a sufficient time frame to see results, and yet it's short enough that it can keep you motivated and it allows you to pivot and make adjustments to the process as you need to. The next one is the three-path strategy. When you find yourself at a crossroads, you essentially have three main options. One, you expand on what's working. Two, you can evolve by making adjustments. And three, you can exit. You can say, yep, this doesn't work anymore, we're out. And this framework aids in clarifying your choices, and it enables you to make intentional decisions rather than feeling stuck or overwhelmed. Finally, consider the opportunity scan. This is a quick method for identifying new possibilities, whether it's a market shift, a potential partnership, or a skill you want to develop. You'd use this tool when you're ready to explore your next steps. And I encourage you to choose one path and either expand, evolve, or exit and put it into practice over the next 90 days. Remember, reinvention is much more manageable when you break it down into focused cycles. You don't have to tackle everything at once. Just take the next step where it leads. So let's talk about the E in four, and that's engaging forward. And there's a few things that come into play here. One, it's you need to take action over anxiety. You have to have momentum over perfection, and you have to have progress over paralysis. Ever hear about paralysis analysis? And that's where we get so deep into the analysis of the situation that it actually paralyzes us. We become manic and we don't move forward. It's a common misconception that clarity precedes movement. In reality, the process of taking action that fosters clarity, and then rather than the opposite. Individuals often find themselves awaiting certainty before initiating action. They want to make sure this is going to work before they initiate action. However, it's the act of progressing in itself, however modestly you do that, that one step at a time, that illuminates your path forward. Reinvention necessitates courage rather than certainty. One need one need not possess complete answers prior to embarking on a new endeavor. In fact, delaying action in search of perfect clarity can result in stagnation. It's through taking small, imperfect steps that you actually discover the potential opportunities. I don't know how many have actually gone through a process of reinvention in their organizations before, but there's been a lot of times where you pivot, you take an imperfect step and you pivot, and you actually find an opportunity in that mistake that actually leads you down a different path that was even better than the path that you started down in the first place. And this allows for any necessary adjustments along the way. So therefore, I encourage you not to wait for that ideal moment. Don't wait till all the stars line up and the circumstances are just perfect. Take one imperfect step in the forthcoming week. Engage in a new experience, initiate a new conversation that you've deferred or that you didn't know existed, and explore an idea that has been on your mind. Remember, the essence of the progress resides not in perfection, but in that momentum that you create with each additional step. And it enhances both your clarity and your confidence. So I want to talk about the first swing principle. There's a lot of different ways that we can talk about this. I do it from a golf metaphor. Michael Jordan always said that he missed 100% of the shots he never took. It's the same thing with first swing. And as a performance coach, collaborating with those professional and amateur golfers, I have the opportunity to observe this application on a daily basis. A lot of golfers will get stuck in analysis paralysis. The access to rangefinders and GPS and all of these condition enhancements that tell us what's going on in the golf course can actually paralyze a lot of golfers. And I actually talk to them about being connected to their game. Just the simple act of walking a golf course and walking off yardages matters because you're more connected to that game. And there's a lot of aspects that you can't modify in a swing that hasn't been executed. So if you have a swing flaw going on, we have to work on that and help you modify it. But you have to swing the golf club to make that happen. And a lot of times players will hesitate waiting for those ideal conditions. They'll wait for the wind to die down. Well, the wind starts blowing harder, those types of things. And so they're waiting for that absolute certainty before they commit to the shot. And then they end up forcing the shot and they miss the shot. So let's talk about that in a coaching practice or in a business example. I assisted a highly skilled amateur golfer once that did that, and he was second guessing every decision. There was a business owner that was doing the same thing at the same time. It was one of my business clients, and he was struggling with making a decision on whether or not they should engage in a new contract with a new organization and bring on a new product. And while he was waiting for that perfect moment to launch the new product, he missed three opportunities to actually launch and missed out on about $10 million in client revenue because he never launched the product. And it was only after they embraced the necessity of taking that first step were they able to figure that out. Obviously, that client was sick to his stomach that he missed out on all those opportunities with those new clients, but he ended up coming back stronger from it. The first action provided critical feedback. It fosters confidence, and it laid the groundwork for significant improvement. And these principles were equally applicable outside of both domains. Whether you're seeking to reinvent your career, enhance your leadership tactics, or advance a business initiative, certainty is not a prerequisite for progress. If it was that easy, if everything was 100% guaranteed, nobody would have jobs, nobody would have to work because it would just all get done, right? The reason why you're here is because you have seen a need in your community, in your organization, in those environments that you service in your businesses, and you've taken action to provide a service or a product. It's the same thing in coaching in my world, helping you take those initial actions. Rather, we like to say that courage is essential. It's the initial actions, that readiness to proceed, it's that willingness to fail that cultivates that clarity and greater momentum. Therefore, I encourage you to reflect on your own first swing. Identify one action you can undertake this week, even if it lacks perfection. What's that one thing that's holding you back? And you've gone, oh, yeah, I'll get to that when I can get this, and this lined up first. Remember, you can't adjust a parked vehicle. If you're parallel parking and you've parked that car and you've set that parking brake, you can't adjust the vehicle while it's parked. You have to move the car to straighten the car out. It's the same thing in our business world. We have to be willing to move and take those first steps so that we can actually lead our organizations forward. So let's talk about a few engagement tools real quick. As we explore the process of establishing consistency through a methodical approach, focusing on one small repeatable action at a time, the tools discussed here are specifically designed to assist you with that journey, whether it be a structured 30-day forward plan, insightful accountability triangle, or the comprehensive momentum scorecard. I'll show you a little scorecard here at the end of the presentation that you can use when you start to tackle these things. These instruments extend beyond simple checklists. They embody essential habits that, when embraced with practice consistency, promote meaningful and enduring change in your life. For example, the 30-day forward plan serves as a powerful framework that encourages organizations to visualize the upcoming month, be clear about what you're trying to accomplish, facilitate and articulate those specific goals and the intentions that are going to inform your daily activities. I always said, as I was teaching salespeople back in my early career, that if you could plan a day, if you could plan an hour, you could plan a day. If you could plan a day, you could plan a week. If you could plan a week, your month, your year, and your year, your career. And it's really about having that plan and staying diligent to your plan. Next is the accountability triangle. That functions as a proactive system for checking in, prompting you to assess your progress relative to the aspirations and the support structures that you've established. And finally, that momentum scorecard, which we'll go to here in just a minute, emerges as a tool that you can use for the actual tracking of achievements, and it encourages celebration of even minor victories when you accomplish them. It's imperative to recognize that the journey towards consistency becomes significant when more manageable, when you pursue more manageable processes. And I strongly recommend the selection of accountability partners, somebody that can hold you accountable, whether that's a business partner, somebody inside your organization, a friend, a member of the chamber that you're close to, anybody that you can share your goals with and share the process you're going through that can help you and offer you constructive challenge to what you're trying to do, and then help you maintain your commitment to your objectives. It could be, like I said, a trusted partner, a trusted colleague, a dedicated coach, anybody that's a like-minded friend that can help give you some support. This will help you build incrementally through the accumulation of small, consistent actions, and even then, daily victories. So, therefore, I encourage you to select somebody today that can help you get through that. So, what does this mean to Nebraska entrepreneurs? Change is an inherent aspect of our existence. It's a phenomenon that we see everywhere, right? I think COVID probably proved that to most of us, only because it put us in a spot where none of us really knew what was going to happen the next day. And what distinguishes us here in Nebraska, I think, is our unwavering determination and that community spirit that we have and our willingness to adapt here in Nebraska. The process of reinvention encompasses not only personal growth, but also fortifies our local economies as well as the social fabric of our communities. When business owners, community leaders, and entrepreneurs engage in reinvention, they generate new opportunities, they create jobs, and they develop solutions that benefit the collective. This underscores the significance of organizations such as Grow Nebraska, which functions as a catalyst for equipping local businesses with the necessary tools, resources, and support to not merely endure, but to also prosper amidst evolving circumstances. By capitalizing on your organization's unique strengths, we are establishing the foundation for enduring success, not solely for individual business owners, but for the entire state. So, as you reflect on your own process of reinvention, consider that your investment extends beyond personal achievement. It contributes to the growth and resilience of Nebraska's business community as well. So we've already discussed a couple of examples throughout the presentation that have illustrated the F.O.R.E framework a little bit, and I want to share just a couple more practical examples. I collaborated with one small town retailer who was grappling with the significant competition of online marketplaces. I don't know if that's hitting your business right now, but I know those online marketplaces make it a lot more convenient for people to just have stuff shipped to their door. I think it's actually hurt communities in a lot of ways, though, because it gets us out of our being engaged with each other. And so that was one of the conversations that was a tough conversation that I had to have with this client. And our initial focus was on achieving some clarity regarding the market dynamics of their particular market, and then distinguishing genuine trends from the transient noise that was out there. Subsequently, we reinvested in their core values, which were community engagement and personalized service. And utilizing those foundational elements, we were able to develop a new strategic approach that included hosting local events at their business and implementing a customer loyalty program. Their first step was modest. All they did was initiated a single event. They had an after hours for the chamber, and that process immediately increased their community engagement. That led to clarity, and it clarified their values to the community, and it showed how they were supporting the community, and it enabled them to successfully then reinvent their business while preserving their own unique identity. Another instance was a local nonprofit leader that encountered an uncertainty regarding funding. They undertook an assessment of their financial landscape, and it reaffirmed their organizational mission for them as to what was actually truly important to their organization. And so we had to help them design a new outreach strategy and then execute a targeted campaign. And each step had to be interlinked, and the outcomes were very positive. However, we had to really take those small steps to get them to that point. So as you reflect on those narratives there, consider your own personal journey. Where might you apply a systematic approach in your organization? Where can clarity cultivate your values shape your design, and your design catalyze action? So right before we get to the reinvention road worksheet, let's talk just for a second about the roadmap that you kind of follow as you're reinventing your organization. We might look at things like we need to identify what our blind spots are or identify that fog. We need to reconnect to our values. We need to design our next move because we don't just want to fly off the handle and go. And then we need to re-engage forward with intention. So it's essential to reconnect with your core values, which will serve as the foundation for your decision-making process. Then you have to intentionally design your next steps. So you have to know where you're going, right? And so I encourage you to select an actionable step for this. This may involve utilizing a clarity tool, reflecting on your values, outlining a 90-day plan, or simply initiating your first meaningful effort. Regardless of your choice, I urge you to commit to that action and observe the potential outcomes it's going to yield. It's important to recognize that reinvention is not merely a one-time event. Rather, it's a continuous process and a cycle for which you'll return repeatedly as your circumstances continue to evolve. Each step is going to contribute to the building of momentum, and it's going to contribute to the resilience for future endeavors. So here's a real simple kind of checklist or worksheet that you can use just to kind of get you from one stage to the next. The primary objective of this is not to engage in extensive analysis or to aim for impeccable response. Rather, it's really to emphasize the importance of that self-honesty and then the simplification of your own thoughts. Um, Commence with the fog to clarity section first. Engage in a deep reflection regarding your current circumstances. What are your uncertainties? What are your confusions? And what's occupying your mind? And then figure out, is it crucial to acknowledge these sentiments without immediate pressure and to identify solutions, and then simply articulate them as they exist. Subsequently, we want to direct your focus then from the values to the compass. Consider which is truly significant to you. What core values constitute your identity? Which principles guide you, particularly in challenging situations? Take a moment to document the initial thoughts that emerge. And are these instructional reflections that often highlight what is most essential to you, or are they just noise? Next, review the reinvention ideas to prototype section. Are you contemplating a new concept or an alteration in what piques your interest? Reflect on how you might experiment with an idea, a new idea that you have, a new product line that you're trying to launch. Do it on a small scale, do it in one department, and then develop a prototype. This may involve an inventive approach to challenge or a novel perspective on a personal initiative. Lastly, find that first step to engagement. Identify that one actionable step that you can undertake to initiate progress. It's important to note that this step may not necessarily be super significant in your mind. It might merely be an action, a manageable action to begin the process. It might be, hey, I need to pick up the phone and call Fred and tell him X, whatever X is. Throughout this exercise, please remember that these reflections are intended for your personal contemplation. Engage in a candid self assessment, simplify where possible, and then resist the temptation to overthink your responses. If you're willing, I'm more than welcome to during the Q&A to welcome insights from you guys to feel comfortable sharing. Sometimes sharing can kind of breed and spark open conversation. So feel free to bring that up during the question and answer here. So as we conclude, I want to leave you with one final reflection. Reinvention is not merely about altering one's identity. It's about realizing one's inherent potential. Each individual, each one of you, possesses the capacity to grow through experience that you encounter, regardless of the uncertainties, whether it's a pandemic, shifting marketplaces, or any other challenges that lie ahead. It's essential to recognize that hope is not simply an emotion; it's a deliberate practice. Agency is not merely a theoretical construct, it represents conscious choice. Furthermore, possibilities are not solely a vision, it's something that actively cultivates step-by-step action. So I want to thank you for your time and openness today and for listening, your willingness to explore those ideas. And let's go ahead and proceed with intention and unity. I'll open this up now for questions if there are any coming from the floor.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. We really appreciate the insight and the challenges. Also the encouragement to kind of step out of your comfort zone and realizing how change comes about, and it's very intentional. Like Brian said, we're going to open it up for questions. Please feel free to drop those in the chats, or if there's anything that stood out to you and you want clarification on it, we'll give you guys a few minutes here to kind of drop those in a chat. And while you might be thinking about it, I do want to go ahead and let you know that we would love your feedback about today's training. And so please let us know what you thought of it, any topics that you have that you would love to hear about on these webinars. We're constantly looking to add additional trainings and keep bringing them to you for free. And so please take just a minute or two to fill out this survey and kind of let us know all your thoughts that you have. And then don't forget that we're going to be back next Thursday, same time, same place, different topic. We're going to bring in Brittany. She's also going to be a speaker during Market Tech. And her topic next week is going to be on a live marketing asset building workshop utilizing the Gemini Content Lab. And so you're in for a real treat. She's going to go over a lot of good information. And so please sign up to join us again. And then save the date for February 19th as our main stage speaker, Judy Fox. She's one of three coming to Market Tech for our main stage. She's going to be leveraging LinkedIn and video for the 2026 year of growth. And so that also, these are going to be great teasers for just the quality that's coming to Market Tech. Market Tech, again, is a day and a half conference, March 24th and 25th in Kearney, Nebraska. If you haven't already secured your seat, do so. It is going to be a jam-packed event. We're bringing in some huge hitters, great breakout sessions. You're going to be able to learn and earn at Market Tech. It's going to be a conference you don't want to miss. So be sure to check it out and get your seats secured before we sell out. Again, I'm going to kind of leave that up there. I'm going to leave up the training feedback. We did have a question come in, Brian. This was intentional and change enforcing, I guess, so more of a comment. So thank
Well,
you
thank
for
you for
the
that.
comment. If you guys do have questions that you think of after we conclude today, reach out. You will be receiving the recording of this. So be on the lookout for an email that includes the recording. It'll include Brian's contact information. And then again, if you have questions, we encourage you to reach out for further connections. Otherwise, again, thank you, Brian. We appreciate you taking the time to just share your insight and really push us to um, strategically think through how we approach challenges that we face.